Just F It. Hi, I'm Romy, an identity coach helping others who struggle with their sexual identity and families of queer youth find their path of understanding and acceptance.
And I'm Carla, a mom empowerment coach empowering moms to own their new identities and motherhood journeys.
And together we are the EFF IT Madres. We are here to invite you guys into stories of some inspiring madres
who have changed their lives through an F It moment. So here we go. Just F It. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We are together. We are doing an intro before we do an episode. So for anyone watching, we're wearing the same clothes, but
well, that episode's actually after.
So. Oh, is it after? Yeah, okay. So. Well, you'll see a double look of this look.
Yeah.
But we are the EFF IT Madres. I'm Romy. This is Carla. We interview moms every week, and it comes out on Monday Madres, and we share their EFF IT moments, their big moments of saying fuck it, going after big, scary, emotional changes as moms. It's important to know that these are as moms because it's so much harder. You have so much more responsibility and people relying on you when you are a mother to make those big changes. And so we've been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of amazing moms.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have an episode that
yes, we have this episode is a flashback episode. It's a montage of most. Otherwise it would have been like 2 hours or 3 hours long. But it is a montage of a lot of the women that we've had on, the moms we've had on, talking about their EFF IT moments. And I've been listening to it because we edit our episodes before, and it's just like so inspiring to hear the different sort of EFF IT moments everyone has had. And like, hopefully it inspires somebody out there who maybe they're like, oh, I don't think mine is an EFF IT moment. It is like, whatever it is that you decide to say EFF IT to is your EFF IT moment. It could be, deciding to like get up and move to another state or getting a divorce or whatever the case may be. You'll hear
getting on antidepressants,
yeah,
writing a book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it could be a bunch of things or even just giving up on like the expectations of what you thought motherhood should be. It's just whatever you decide, I can't keep doing this. I need a change. And that change ultimately is for the better. And however messy it might feel, it ends up giving you a whole new perspective and opens you up to a lot of new opportunities and ways of thinking. So this is a little, montage of a lot of the women we've had on. And if you've never heard this podcast before, this will give you like a little sneak peek as to what this is about. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, so let's just get into it. So when did you decide to just F it and why?
Well, I'm very much like a fuck it every day type of person. So I feel like I get there frequently, Okay. As a mom,
Yes.
I never like wanted to when I was a kid, I never thought about getting married. I always thought about being a mom. So my main focus was to take care of my kids and make sure that they were happy. You know, I wasn't the happiest coming up, so I wanted to make sure that they really had that, and I have 3 kids. The first 2 are twins. They just turned 6. And at about, very early on, it was, just, my doctor told me, you're going to have 2 kids at the same time that have to be in the same place at the same time. They're going to be completely opposite. And it is so true. They, very early on, as soon as they could, they ran in opposite directions. And one of them displayed, like I had 2, the first 2 are boys, typically born boys. Assigned male at birth is the technical term, is how we say it in our family now. And they both were assigned male at birth. And early on, one of them was very particular and liked specific things, all things Barbie and sexual and princess, and very opposite me. I never liked Barbie and like dolls, and I'm like white and purple and black are the only things purple is never something I would wear. So it was interesting to see ever really take off after this. And I'm cool. I've always been cool. I'm like, my kids can do whatever they want, want to wear dresses? Absolutely.
And I remember watching your posts and stuff with like the dresses and like the Frozen, and I was like, yes,
go for it. Whatever. Okay.
Yes.
You want to wear dresses? Cool.
I loved it.
Here we go.
I loved it.
Really. And it kept progressing, and it got increasingly harder to try and fit in a box. You know, we would go shopping, and there's very clearly the girl section and the boys section. And Ever was very much drawn to the girl section. And it would, I was navigating, constantly trying to find pink shorts or pink shirts that she would want to wear. And eventually, she said to me one day, Mommy, I just want to go inside of a box and come out a girl. And I said, fuck it. I mean, I distinctly remember saying, fuck it. Why not just do that right now?
What age was this, Abby? What age was this at?
She was like 3.5 when that happened. It was persistent. I'm Abel's sister. The other one is named Abel, and Abel, was actually the first one to start referring to Ever as his sister,
Wow.
because would say, "Go get your brother," and Ever would say, "Sister," and just correct me all the time,
They're so in
constantly. And
sync, right? Like as twins that like one
oh,
knows that
Abel
yeah.
knew. And he had been telling us the whole time, "That's my sister. Ever is a girl." And so we just listened,
Yeah.
and and we just said, "Fuck it."
Yeah.
We, I hate to say that, like, we allowed. It's just sort of, we embraced it instead of, you know, um, I think a lot of times we have these ideas in our head and we make up these stories in our head. And at a certain point, you get there and you're just like, fuck it. That's not the story that I'm going to keep pursuing. It's going to be something different and I don't know what it is, And here we are.
When I had my firstborn, I realized like it was kind of a rebirth for me. It was an awakening of sorts. When I looked at how how beautiful he was and how much I loved him, I realized that I needed to love the inner child in me the same way. And I had a lot of locked trauma from my childhood that I hadn't dealt with. And I was raised in the church by a single father. And as much as I am thankful for that, it's a huge part of who I am, my relationship with Jesus and all of that. I knew that there was a lot of ways that I was raised that I needed to do some healing, and I needed to be honest and authentic with who I was. And like I said, in my experience with Christian music, it was, you have to write a certain kind of lyric and that kind of thing. And so I was just never really honest with who I was. And my EFF IT moment was I started working with an artist who I saw him on The Voice like 10 years prior. And I knew when I saw him that I was going to work with him one day. The way he emoted, the way he sang, his heart, his passion. 10 years later, here we are having this moment of like, we both felt suffocated. We both felt like we weren't owning our voice for so long.
So you didn't
And
know him, right? You just saw him on The Voice. You didn't know him.
I didn't know him. And then
Wow.
10 years later, we connected over the phone. And this is after I had my two boys. And I said, I've been living in this reality that just, there's so many things that don't make sense to me the way I was raised. And I was deconstructing my faith, so to speak. And so was he. And we both had this throat chakra that was blocked. Like we weren't owning who we really were. So we wrote this song. And it was one of the most powerful things I've ever been invested in. And he was genuinely in this moment in his life, same age as me, later in life, falling in love with a man because he felt growing up, he was the lead of worship. He was raised religious just like me, and he never felt like he could own that. So we wrote this song together and we just said, fuck it. And he fell in love with a man and we wrote this beautiful song. And so that was the moment. And I'm proud of it because I want my kids to know what I'm passionate about. And I want them to know that their mom is owning who she is.
Well, there's lots of them, but the one we're specifically talking about tonight is in regards to Andy, Romy's brother. So he was born with a genetic disorder. And what I was told, his diagnosis was very bleak that he was going to be severely disabled and would never walk and would never talk and would never be able to do anything, and for me to put him in an institution. And I said, fuck you.
Wow.
Not happening. Not happening. So
Jeez.
I gently guided the worker that came to my home to tell me to put Andy in an institution to the front door and said, you can kindly leave. And didn't buy into it. Never did. So,
Mom, at this, I want to jump in. Andy was born with his umbilical cord, right, around his neck, came out
so he
blue.
had two things. He had two things. Unbeknownst to us at the time, yeah. So my amniotic fluid was green, which is a sign of stress. And every time I had a contraction, his heartbeat would drop. So the doctor should have done a C-section, but he allowed me to go through natural childbirth. So when Andy went through the birth canal, the cord was around his neck twice, which cut off his air. So he was code blue. He was dead. So they rushed him out of the room, code blue, code blue. You know, he is my third child. I know what it's like to have a child come out that looks normal. So they rushed him out and they brought him into me about 2 hours later, and I was trying to breastfeed him and he turned blue again. So I buzzed the nurses and they came and got him. And they started doing all these tests on him. And I was having my tubes tied, not knowing that all this was going to happen. And the next day, after I had my tubes tied, they were transporting him by helicopter to UCI. And I was like, I'm out of here. And they said, you can't leave the hospital. You just had a surgery. And I said, I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. I'm leaving. You're taking my baby somewhere? I'm gone. So he got transferred to UCI. And
Wow.
one of the pictures I sent you was the first time Romy and her brother met Andy. They had face mask on, and you could see the look of terror in their eyes because they're like, what is going on? So they were doing all these tests on him, and we discovered he had a genetic disorder. It's called Ring 18, and at the time he was born, there were 75 case studies. So there wasn't a lot known about it, but it was not a good. No, he was going to be severely and never be able to do anything. And I was like, that is not happening. If there's only 75 case studies, how do you know what this child's going to do? So between the cord being around his neck and the genetic disorder, which is strictly from Agent Orange, because their father was sprayed with Agent Orange in Vietnam, which ultimately killed him and created the problems with Andy. So I had a lot of those moments.
I think I live by the effort moments in my life, because if something doesn't serve me, I just move on. I stay in the high frequency vibration, and I just don't let my stay. I prefer to be sad and broken and just deal with it, like rip it off like a bandit and move on. And I've had a couple of them in my life. So,
Okay. Is there one in particular that sticks out to you that was like the most transformative?
sure. Becoming a mom in my late 20s, thinking that I was ready. Obviously, you're never ready to become a mom or a parent. It's just when you go with life, that's how it was. I just had baby fever, and I was like, sure, let's go. Not thinking that that was the right man to be with. Just going with the flow, and like, I can do this. I'll just do it. And I did that. And then it turned out to be a really abusive relationship, which I stuck with because, like every woman does, I have babies with this man. So let me just try until I was like, you know what? I live in New York City, busy as hell, working as an entrepreneur, and I had 3 babies. So I had a toddler, and then he turned 1, and then I had a set of twins. So my big effort moment from that really transformed my life. You know how when you turn 30 and 31, 32, there's like a pivotal time in the moons and all of that for women and for everybody, actually. And I just said, fuck it, F it. I was like, I know my worth. And I started having anxieties. Like, my body literally spoke to me, vibrated to me, like I'm in the wrong place, wrong people, wrong everything. It was multiple people, just not one. I had like, I was in a community of liars and sneaking behind my back, being a mom of three babies and having this. I'm like, what did I do to attract that? So,
Right.
So
my,
your environment as a mom, just so I can paint the picture, you've got your three kids, you're in New York, you're in an unhealthy relationship, right?
yeah,
And you're having this moment of like,
yeah.
what am I doing?
What am I doing? What's happening? And
Yeah.
yeah, I have these amazing kids, and I have to be a role model for them. So what did I do?
Yes.
I'm like, okay, my son is not going to grow up thinking that it's okay to treat women like this, and my
Yes.
daughters are definitely not growing up thinking that it's okay to be treated like that. So I
Right.
just
Yes.
took off completely, like just done, done.
So I'm just going to give a little context for the crescendo building up to this fuck it moment. I was due with my second child back in November, and that was the height of Stop Asian Hate in terms of these hate crimes that were happening to seniors and everything. And so I really, really had to go to my mom and say, I really am concerned about your safety. Come live with us.
Okay.
And that was a really hard transition for a woman that's lived in San Francisco for like 30 plus years. But she's like, I'll do it. You've got two kids. So a couple months after that, give birth to my daughter, you know, and then COVID really, really takes over our lives. Everybody in my house gets COVID except for me. COVID's like, nah, bitch, you're too busy. You're gonna take care of everybody. You know, like I was like waiting to get it, and like I just didn't get it, but like I just was losing it in terms of like taking care of everybody, feeding everyone, making sure people were rested. And so this moment happened when everybody's kind of on the uptick, but still just like have been in isolation for so long, and things are brewing. My daughter's in the living room, my son, my husband, and my mom and I. And then my daughter's just crying, but it's that kind of cry where you as a mom are like, that's not a normal cry. And so I'm just trying to sort my shit out and figure it out and be like, okay, well, what's really going on here? But she's just crying. And I was like, I just need a moment. I got it. She's congested. She just needs to clear her airway. But I just needed that split second. But my mom just kind of really came in and charged up in front of me. And she said, you need to make her be quiet.
Oof. Jeez.
And I said, I don't need to make her fucking do anything.
Right.
Right. And it just starts building up. And my husband, who's the peacemaker, is like, y'all need to go upstairs. You need to just take it upstairs away from the kids. The kids are already triggered by this. You can tell in my son's body language, like everyone's just not liking how this is building up. You know, my mom's just like, how disrespectful. You're so rude. You're so ungrateful. You're like the world's most horrible daughter. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm walking up the stairs. And then she's standing and looking down towards me. And I was like, this is my child. Like, I will take care of her however she needs. Like, do not tell me what to do.
Right.
And my mom's like, how dare you speak to me in that way? And I was like, well, then if you have a problem with it, then you can fucking get out.
Right.
You know, like, I let you live here. I've taken care of you my whole life. Like, you could just get out. And then she just starts raging and is just like, you would make me homeless, and just like this big dramatic Korean energy. And I was like, no one's going to stand between me and my kids. Like,
No.
if I have to choose between my kids and you, like, I'm going to choose my kids. And that's when she lost it and lost her ish. And like, all I saw were her nails coming at me. And she, you know, she punched me. She gave me a good right hook in the chin. I was bleeding in my chest.
Oh my God.
Like all of that rage just came out. And my fuck it moment built up to this, like, I felt like I was teleported to so many moments in my life that weren't even about this moment. But I lost it. And I am a self-defense coach. in a trauma-informed self-defense coach. I had to subdue my mom. So I'd extend my arms and I had to push back, and in the most non-aggressive but aggressive way that I could, like without actually physically hitting my mom, because I was going to lose it.
Right.
And I was
Jeez.
like, nobody's coming in front of me and my kids. Like, do not hurt me. Do not cross me again, or I will fucking like kick you out and you will have nothing. You will have no interaction with these kids ever again. Period.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh.
mean, this is, I struggled for a long time with self doubt. Really had a hard time believing in myself. Didn't matter what I did in terms of where I was in my life. And it was a moment where I was asked to climb a mountain. Now, I am not an athlete by any means. I rarely go to the gym these days. I just turned 51. So, hey, but I need to get back into it. But I was asked to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and completely out of my wheelhouse, something that I would have never put on a bucket list. And I said yes. And that was my moment where I said, I'm not going to listen to the voice inside my head. I am going to not listen to the naysayers as well. It wasn't just from me, but from other people, right? I mean, how many people said to me, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? No, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing it. But that was constant. And so that was the moment where I said, I'm putting all of that aside and I'm going to truly believe in myself and I'm going to go for it. And I did. And I did it.
Wow. Well, how did that feel when you did that?
It was really a huge moment for me because I really felt like it was the first time that I truly believed in myself. And that moment made me realize that if we believe in ourselves and we put in the work behind something that we want to do, it's not just someone else wants us to do it, it's that we want to do it, then we can really accomplish what we set as our goals. We got to put in the work too.
I think my biggest effort moment was when I think Shiloh was 8 months old. I was living in Europe. I'd moved to Europe, and I was with my ex-husband, who had increasingly gotten more physically abusive. And in that moment, I think when you're building with the person you think you're so in love with, to like stop it and throw it in the trash was really difficult for me. So I think my biggest effort moment was as a mom. And I think you can't explain like the feeling of just like getting strong and like having to do something unless you're that parent feeling of just like, I don't know, that strength, hard
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
It's a strength that like you can't explain. Like once you become like that mama bear and you you have to make decisions. I want to be really clear too, and like Shiloh, right, is your
Daughter.
your daughter with okay, is your daughter with your with this person in your
No,
life, right? Did you guys share or
no,
no?
no, no.
Okay.
So my boyfriend now, who's Shiloh's, he stepdad, she calls him.
Yeah.
That her dad, her biological dad, is not in the picture at all. I have full
Okay.
custody. Um, but
Oh.
my effort moment was definitely leaving that relationship.
That's
And
okay.
for me, it
Yeah.
was solely because, and I think about if I didn't have Shiloh, I don't know if I would have the strength to do that. I think I honestly might still be in it, suffering. But yeah, that was my biggest moment of like, all right, let's fucking get it together, and we're gonna put on our big girl pants and get the hell out of here for her safety and my safety. So
yeah, so I was thinking about this because I have lots of effort moments, but the one that I want to focus on today is when I transitioned from living in Los Angeles to moving to Texas. And a little backstory is I had like a midlife crisis. I was teaching yoga for years. I stopped doing makeup. And so I had a baby. I moved to Texas to be closer to my family and a lot of other like things that were going on in my life, and just wasn't working in LA. It's hard to have a baby in LA and not have support. And so we moved to Texas with a 10-month-old. My husband now, he was just my boyfriend or my partner at the time. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to teach yoga anymore. I'm going to start a wedding makeup and hair business. And he was very confused because he knew me as a yoga teacher. And I just knew that I could do that quicker and make more money faster. and I had a baby on my hip, and I thought, well, I really kind of want to be like a stay-at-home mom, and so I'll just work on the weekends, and weddings are on the weekends. So I'll do this, I'll just focus on weddings instead of doing what I had done in LA, which was like celebrity and entertainment stuff, which is like 14-hour days, as I'm sure you guys know. So that's how Bonita Brides was born originally in 2017. I was the sole stylist doing hair and makeup, and Stephen would watch my son on the weekends, and I would go and do weddings. And so everyone was like, what? Like, you're just gonna limit yourself to weddings? Like, why wouldn't you go do, I mean, I know people, like, I went to school with Robert Rodriguez's sister. Like, they're here in Austin. Like, they're making movies here. Like, why wouldn't you go do that? I was like, I don't know. I just got like this download from source. Like, I'm just going to do this wedding thing. And I just did that. I focused on that. A lot of people thought I was crazy for doing that.
Yeah. So we decided to F it just a month ago. It's brand new. So Kat and I had a business idea for over a year now. But the stars just didn't align then. Kat was a co-founder at a tech startup, and I was working in marketing. And so it was just this idea that we would bounce around, but we didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then this last May, just kind of everything aligned perfectly, where we went back to that idea and we're like, let's do this.
Yeah. And that idea is FAM. So heyfam.com. And the idea really is pretty much bringing together in one place all LGBTQ plus founded brands that are selling online. So mostly e-com businesses, and just making it really easy for people to discover these brands and support these businesses. And these products by these brands are very unique too. A lot of them are made for the community by the community. So that's what FAM is.
I decided to F it when I wrote my book, Wealth Warrior, 8 Steps for Communities of Color to Conquer the Stock Market, the longest title ever. I want to give you context because there was so much fear penetrating me at the time of this book deal, in the sense of like, am I allowed to write a book pertaining to the stock market? I'm not licensed. I'm not old, white, pale, and stale. Like all of these things. Like, is the SEC going to come knocking at my door? Like, legally, I had real questions like, can I do this? And then that started to penetrate, like, on a logistics level, can I do this? But then it was like emotionally, like, can I take on this responsibility, and do I have what it takes? And I had a moment of clarity where I really had to dig deep and understand that this has truly been a calling. It has been a big passion of mine, and F it. Like, I can do this. I'm more than capable of doing it. And if there are some sort of repercussions in the future for doing this, then I'll have to walk through that fire when I do. But I cannot let this opportunity go, and I have to keep trudging forward.
I think I love the concept of your podcast because when Romy invited me to come on, I was looking at it and I listened to some episodes and was hooked immediately. And I love the concept of F it because I feel like, I mean, as a person, but for me specifically, stepping into becoming a mom, everything has been a series of F moments, And I decided to share with you, I guess, the beginning parts of it, the F it moment when you decide to just become a mom, especially as a queer woman. You have to make these decisions, right? You have to like intentionally get pregnant. So it was a series of F it moments, like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this even by myself. And there's been just a series of F it moments from that moment moving on forward, all the way down to, should I date while pregnant? F it, yes, I will. Do I want to create my narrative of my birth story? Yes, I do. And it's a crazy plan, but F it, I'm going to do it. And do the birth the way I want to. So it's been, in a nutshell, that kind of collection.
I want to acknowledge what you said, because I think this is one of the second stories of choosing to be a parent. We had a couple on that was making that choice as well. but not individually yet of that decision. And I think it's important because your journey can be different as a queer woman. If you're doing this on your own, which is what you did, right? Chose to
Yes.
do this journey on your own. You decided you wanted to be a mom. You said F it, and you went to that. That's something we haven't really talked about, Carla. You know what that would look like. Like, I just became a mom, like mine wasn't planned. There wasn't thought behind it. I always wanted to be a mom, but when it happened, I hadn't really made that like moment to do it. It was like, F it, I'm going to go with this because it's happening. But you really
Right.
wanted this and decided to do this. So this is really such a beautiful F it moment, that like your child knows that you really made this decision. You wanted this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, for me, it was like, and it took a year and a half before I actually got pregnant. And I have various ideas as to why that might have been. I think, spiritually speaking, my baby was waiting for the right moment, was waiting for me to be by myself, was waiting for what have you. And, for me, it was like, this was the only way to get pregnant, was to actually go and do it, go to a clinic, go in and put that time and money and energy and everything into it. And it was kind of like, well, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't know that I at least didn't try.
I've had several, but I think the most recent one was when I found myself unemployed, right, with student loan debt, credit card debt. My daughter was 13 at the time. I was divorced, so no savings, really feeling like my back was up against the wall and realizing like, okay, if whatever I have been doing up until this point has gotten me here, it's clearly not going to change if I keep doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And so it was this moment of panic. It was a moment of, I like to remind people that Nopalera was born out of discomfort. It wasn't born because I was sitting around with money and with funding and I wanted to start like a beauty brand and that sounded fun. It was really like a survival. Like, if I don't build something big, nothing's going to change in my life. And like, how the hell am I going to pay for my daughter to go to college? How I'm going to pay for anything? And so it was in that moment, this is like the summer of 2019, so this is before COVID, that I just decided I'm going to build a high-end Latina brand, and I'm going to make it aspirational, and I want to like disrupt the Eurocentric beauty space, which has been very dominated by like Western European brands, like the Estee Lauder, Clinique, etc. And but of course the problem was I didn't know how to get beauty products made. I didn't know how I was going to fund this idea, but I just knew like, this is the idea. Like, I'm just going to figure it out. Like, and so that's the F it moment, right? Of like, I'm going to figure it out, whatever it takes. If I have to learn new skills, which I did, I'm still learning every day. I had to learn how to make the products myself because I literally didn't know how to get them made otherwise.
Me? I mean, I think that it goes without saying from our documentary that we both just, discovered our sexuality later in life, and in the confines of an organized religion like Mormonism, that's very high demand, and there's a lot of strict code of conduct, if you will, that we didn't have any opportunity to figure that out before our 30s. And so seeing her in our kids' like school parking lot for the first time, it was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think that that was the beginning of my F it moment, because I felt it in my gut that there was something inside of me that hadn't been tapped before. Like, it was a visceral reaction in my body that I experienced that I hadn't experienced in any other relationship I'd been in, heterosexual relationships. And so there was just something about her presence and her energy that I was like, what the fuck is this? And I think it was just the beginning of that unraveling for sure. And then eventually we became mom friends and the sparks were flying.
Yeah, I definitely had the moment of realization that something was off when we became mom friends. Not, I mean, something was very right. Actually, it just was like, but wait, this doesn't make sense. So we went camping together as family friends. So like with our husbands and kids. And we spent like 3 days together. And when I got home from that camping trip, I promised myself I was going to like give her some space, because it's kind of weird to like, text your friend after you just got home from a trip and like say, do you want to hang out again? Like, I was like, I don't want to be that friend. But once I put those boundaries on myself, I found myself saying, oh, well, now I can't stop thinking about her. Now this is something different than a normal friend. And so once I let myself understand what was really happening, it was kind of like there was no going back from there. And the quote from Glennon Doyle from Untamed that I always come back to with the kids is she was looking at her daughter saying to herself, I'm doing this for her, like I'm staying in my marriage for her, but would I want this for her? And I never planned on being a divorced parent. I didn't even know anybody that was divorced growing up. That wasn't really in my mind, my framework at all, culturally, or, you know, my parents are still together. And so it was really hard. The mom guilt was the scariest part for me of this transition. But I really had to choose myself.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the biggest moment is when we decided to move our 3 children from Los Angeles to Italy. It's kind of something originally that we were thinking maybe later in life, like, oh, maybe you retire in Italy. Andre has a lot of family there. So it just kind of felt like a far off thing that maybe one day we would do. We had 1 kid, then we had 2 kids, then surprise, we had 3 kids. With that 3rd one, you know, a lot of things changed. We're in Los Angeles. Obviously, it's an expensive city. We had an amazing house, but our house was really small. And we just started to think about, were there other places we might be able to move? But there weren't really any other places in the US calling our name. And my husband, I feel like for a while was really all about like, maybe we move to Italy, maybe we could do this. And I was like, I'm from Los Angeles. I don't know, maybe have this idea, but I don't really believe that this is what we're going to do. And then our oldest son, you know, he at the time, I think when we really decided this, was turning 8. So getting a little bit older. We had the 4-year-old, we had a baby. And we started to talk about all the pros and cons, what was really our list of priorities. And for us, it was things like safety for our children, affordable education, the food system, more nature around them. And we kept coming back to Italy as being a place that offered these things. And because my husband's father was born in Italy, there was also this opportunity to get citizenship. So we started to explore it more and more. And my husband's like, I'm just going to work on getting all my paperwork together. And maybe we'll just do citizenship here. And then we'll have the ability to go there if we want to go there at some point. And the kids also get citizenship through my husband automatically because they're under 18. So it's kind of like, they all get it. Then mom gets a spousal visa or something.
Yeah.
So don't want her to get left behind.
Yeah.
And then we could all go maybe at some point. And then things just started getting harder and there was more stress. And there was a moment, at least for me, where we were talking and we were thinking about our life. And it felt like, okay, let's look at our life if we stay here. If we stay in Los Angeles, this is really what our life will look like. We will have to stay in this house. We love the house, but it's very tiny for 5 people, especially like 3 growing boys. But financially, like moving to the next level would never make sense for us. So really, everything right now is almost like as if you're seeing your next 20 years.
Yes.
And in that moment, that was like a moment for me where I was like, oh, but not that I don't love my life here, but like, I don't want this 20 years to just be like, this is what it's going to be. Yeah. And I'm just accepting that this is what it's going to look like. This is where we're going to live. Kids are going to school here. The struggle, the grind, like always, and it's never feels like it's enough. You make more money. It's not enough. Life is more expensive. And I thought, well, the kids are still young enough that we can move them and it won't be like, the most traumatizing experience where they're going to hate you if you like pull them from high school.
Yeah.
And like feeling like maybe the next 20 years could be more of an adventure. Maybe if we take a different path now, we still have energy. We're still, we're not young, but like,
Yeah.
it's not trying to do a big change like that at 65. And then you move and like your kids don't visit you because they're not connected to this faraway place that you've chosen to live. And then you probably don't move because your kids are getting older and maybe they're having children and you want to be in their life. So then you don't really ever go do the dream of, retiring in Italy.
I think I've been thinking about that some today. I had always wanted to go to school. And I grew up with a really crazy family, lots of trauma, lots of different things going on. And I was young when I was younger. When I was actually kicked out of my house in the middle of high school, or my senior year. So living with another family, I tried going back to school, and I kept dropping every class. I'd go and life was happening and it all felt overwhelming and I didn't know what I was doing and all of that. And so, but I'd always wanted to go to school. And years later, I was in my 40s. All of a sudden, I had the opportunity to go to school. And so I decided to do it. When I first started back at school, I was actually on academic probation. Because
really? From your past?
Yes, because I had dropped everything. I hadn't failed anything, but I dropped everything. So they had put me on. So when I went back, I went to Orange Coast College first to get my AA.
I did too. Carla did too. I did. Hey.
And so when I went back, I found out I was on academic probation. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I first tried that, I think in my 30s at one point, right when I went through my divorce. And anyways, I started taking classes, and I remember being in the bathroom there crying, feeling like I can't do this. Like, what am I doing? I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And anyways, I started just, I don't know, really applying myself, and I started getting all A's. And I remember being surprised, like, I didn't know I could do that. So when I graduated, I had graduated on the dean's list from there, and I went to Cal Poly Pomona. And it was, I just remember at times feeling very overwhelmed, like I couldn't do this, and finding out that I could do it. And so I go off to Cal Poly Pomona, and I ended up graduating with honors and, did so much better than I ever thought I would, which I was really excited about. And what was weird, I'm in my 40s, and I end up getting Student of the Year in the department I was in. Now, how I got that, I have no idea. I don't know what the process is.
So I got married at a very young age the first time. Like, I met my ex-husband when I was 19, married by 20, first kid out 22. Like, it just was really, really all really fast. And my ex-husband and I have a big age difference. 14 years is a lot. And at the time that I got married, now I'm going to be 52. So imagine 30 years ago, right? Getting a divorce was such a taboo. And especially in the Persian Jewish culture and community, it just didn't happen, right? So, you were called all kinds of names and your friends all kind of abandoned you. But I, with all due respect to my ex-husband, over the years realized that it's just not working because we're on two different paths, we're on two different journeys. And I wanted my kids to see, I have two daughters, and at the time they were 5 and 2, but I wanted them to see that you can be in a healthy marriage and be in a healthy relationship. And if something doesn't work, it's okay to step away from it. And despite what backlash I would have gotten from, everyone around me, I said, effing, I'm out. This is not going to work for me. And I'm going to go just, find my core and do what I got to do.
I really felt strongly before having kids because we tried really hard to have kids and went through infertility treatment. I had all these expectations for myself that once I had another human that didn't care what I had planned as far as being a mom, I had to let that go and just say F it and just parent what was best for us. Not because I read it in some book or my friend had a baby and told me that this was going to work best or this should be easy because social media portrayed it as such. And so I spent a lot of time having all these plans. And then that human was like, I don't care. This is what I'm going to be like. Keep him on a schedule and they should be in bed by this time and all those things. And it's like, well, I really don't want to put my kid to bed at 6:30 because I want to go out to dinner and I don't want to eat at 4.
Right.
I think, Starlin, like one of the biggest things to clarify for anyone listening to, and we had talked about this right before she jumped on, is letting go of the expectations, right? Saying F it to all the advice and guidance we get into motherhood and listening to our own fucking advice, right?
I mean, we are told everything we're supposed to do, but no kids are the same. I have 5 kids. All 5 are different, and what works for one doesn't work for the other. And so I have to be so flexible by the second, honestly. And so going into it and being like, this is how it should be, and this is how it is. And then getting advice from people that I'm like, do you have this many kids? Did you do this too? Like, if we have the same exact life, please tell me what works for you. But I guarantee we don't.
Okay, so we hope that you enjoyed this episode and you got some inspiration from these amazing stories, and it hopefully motivates you to take that first step.
And this is where we say, just F it.
Just F it.
Just F it.